Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the great Richie. All right, go.
Yes, the great Richie. Okay, Richie is a co-working space. Oh, wait, Richie, you have a very entrepreneurial background. Yeah, we'll go a little broader, but he also is a co-working space owner, operator in Virginia, Maryland, Nashville, and he's the president of the Global Workspace Association. Thank you for your time and service. And he was chatting with Gio about some of his hiring strategies, which is always a hot topic because hiring is hard. Gio and Richie, what would you add to the intro so that our listeners know who they're talking with today?
Yeah, so I think the really exciting part about Richie is he is an entrepreneur, and so he is deep into the business. I think it's super interesting. He's had a couple of locations open here recently and has another one in the works, and so he's deep into the construction process and design. And I think that's a big part that we haven't really talked about with people is the cost of, everyone was expecting costs to come down and they haven't. The other side of it is, how are we designing space for the current user? I think there was a lot of thoughts around enterprise going to keep growing. So Richie's got some great locations in Northern Virginia and downtown Nashville. And so it'd be interesting to hear kind of what kind of leads they're getting and all that kind of fun stuff. But Richie's a great friend and a great industry expert. He actually had a call this morning with John Santora with WeWork preparing for next week's GWA. So by the
I'm
time this comes
really
out,
looking forward to
we'll
that.
actually,
I know
yeah,
that'll be behind us by then, but yeah,
actually be
yeah,
there while this releases.
we will
So,
be there. Oh,
so
and
Richie,
an
what else would you
anytime
say about it? Go
fitness
ahead.
franchise owner. That's what I was thinking of. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, you are a multi-passionate entrepreneur and presumably fit.
And recovering
It's,
politician, a recovering
well,
politician too.
Oh,
well, I guided politicians, was never one myself, but yeah, I was a political consultant for a while as well. Yeah, still in the gym industry. We have one gym left.
okay, interesting.
And Chris and I were talking the other day how, as Gio was saying, with the opening of our 3 locations this year, we've kind of been pivoting, she and I, into we're actually running a company that runs co-working spaces now. Like we're not
Mhm.
really
Yep.
running co-working spaces directly, she and I. We're hiring a team of people who's running the co-working spaces, and now we're
Yep.
managing a company that's
Yep.
managing all of that. It's just interesting how that it just kind of snuck up on us where all of a sudden, I'm really out of the day-to-day operations and really looking macro 30,000 feet growth.
Yep.
Leadership development, that's why, kind of the hiring and all that is coming into play. I think we've hired 6 people this year. So, and for us, just having 5 locations, that's a lot of people in one year. That's like a third of our team. So
It's a lot of locations in one year.
yes, that was not Nashville kind of, was a little bit slow and got delayed. And then the next 2 locations did not. They just kind of hummed right along and opened right on time. And so they just kind of crunched them all together unintentionally.
So you
So
were you've been in this role before in the fitness space because you owned many gyms. So same thing, you were not operating just one and that was not your job. So you're sort of
right.
cycling out of that role and cycling into that role in a different industry.
Yes, just kind of a graduated experience. Just looking at the numbers, all of our gyms together didn't do the revenue that probably 2 of our VentureX, co-working
Okay.
spaces do.
Yeah.
And so we were with Anytime Fitness, which is just kind of a mid-range gym franchise.
Yep.
And we had some pretty successful gyms, relative to the brand and all that. There's 2,500 locations in the US. Our best location was 101 out of 2,500. So we just missed cracking the top 100 list. But even then the numbers are just totally different. And the amount of people you need to make things happen is different. We had one lady with our Anytime Fitness gyms who managed all of them for us. We had 6 gyms in 3 states. And she, with me kind of helping lead, she was doing a lot of it. And we have 5 Venture X locations in 3 states. There's no way one person, it could just be me and one other person. That's just, there's too many moving parts. There's too much at stake, frankly.
Yeah.
It's a lot to that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a big part of it too, Richie, is, I love Richie's one of those franchisees / operators that you feel comfortable having a landlord go meet with and not be concerned about, are they going to shoot themselves in the foot? So I think one of the favorite quotes, Richie, what did the CEO of Anytime Fitness say, that you weren't the richest, but you were the best operator, or something along those lines?
Yeah, what he said, something about, I didn't have the deepest pockets, but I knew how to get things done. I can't remember. I could come through with results or something like that. Yeah, because a lot of landlords do. They feel very comfortable seeing a big bank account. And to me, and I know it's hard, it's easy for me to say because I'm not in their position, but I have seen landlords agree to deals with people because they felt comfortable with the amount
Their
of money.
financial statements.
And that person didn't know how to run a business.
Yeah.
And so it's really a short-sighted exchange, in my view. You really want a solid operator. And sure, I get it. You need some financial security, but I think the primary focus should be, I need somebody who can actually pay me rent every month with a successful business. Because if you're operating from I need to make sure if this thing goes sideways, I can get some, you're walking into it with a losing,
because that's the worst case scenario, right? Is fail.
Yeah.
You have to go after the personal assets of my tenant, right? You don't want to get there. So, right. Look for the
you're almost
operator.
conceding that out the
Yeah.
gate when you think about it that way.
Yep. But it is a big risk for a landlord to take a risk on a brand new operator. I mean, you have like transferable, credibility coming from the
Sure.
gym business. Like there's a lot of overlap. I totally get not 100% overlap, but it's a physical location. It's a customer acquisition business. You paid rent every month. Like, that came with it. Okay. Well,
Sure.
by the way, now I can't, this is how I picture you now, Richie. I think, did I miss Richie's been on before, but I was not on? Is that right?
I don't remember, but he's been on before.
Because I remember Gio saying, "Oh, I had to go move a couch with Richie."
Yes.
And like the two of you from like the lower level, you
Mhm.
hit the couch up the stairs like in the middle of the night or whatever. Which
Yes.
Drove
back
out there
to
in the
your
middle of the night,
point,
no reception, deer everywhere.
Richie knows how to
Yeah.
get things done. Bring Gio to the couch. Resourceful.
That is, sometimes you're the dude moving the couch. We drove to the middle of West Virginia to our Airbnb cabin, and a guest had broken our couch, and we had a spare in the basement, but we had another guest coming like 24 hours later. And so we showed up at like 2 a.m., went to sleep for a little bit, woke up, swapped the couches, came home.
Drove back.
We had to negotiate with Carissa to let us go out there, his wife.
Right.
She was concerned because there's little reception. And I still remember Richie grabbing his little, we're going to get into Texan here, getting his little bitty gun to keep us safe. And so we took care of that. So Richie
so it must be like, it's not, is it like off the grid?
Yeah.
I mean, it's on a well.
Okay.
It's in Snowshoe, West Virginia, but it's not on Snowshoe Mountain. So it's a big ski resort, but we're like 2 miles away. It's in a neighborhood, but if you're standing on our porch, you can't tell that you're in a neighborhood. You look around, all you see is trees. So it's loosely a neighborhood.
It's remote. Okay, got it.
So the good news is Richie got man-sized guns for his grand opening present, from a good Texan to a good Northern Virginian. It's funny. His team laughed. His team rolled their eyes. They were like, "Of course, y'all went to buy guns before the grand opening."
Yeah. And Carissa and I already went and tried them out. We went shooting 2 weeks ago. So Chris and I had a truck because I'm school and went to shoot guns for it was about an hour. So yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Wait, is she coming to the conference?
No, she's not.
She's holding down the home front. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so difficult for both of us to get away.
Yeah.
And so, she comes when she can. Usually, if it's like a one night thing, every now and then, we can get one side grandparents to sub in. But there's, between sports and school and all the stuff, there's just so many logistical things to keep track of. It's tough.
I hear you. Got it. Okay, let's talk about.
He stays with the board of directors. I call him the board of directors.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so you have a tool that you use for hiring, which I have heard of before. I mentioned this to Gio. I'm trying to think of who else. Maybe Kim Lee likes this too. I'd love to hear about it and what made you decide to sort of like maybe use a tool versus just kind of going off of, I don't know, intuition, having interview questions you ask like, what's the tool? How do you work it in? How's it been working? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, so it is called Working Genius. It was created by Patrick Lencioni, and there's a book, and he has a website you can buy
I think
the
he has a
test. And
podcast because I think I had his podcast. I think I was subscribed for a while.
he does, and there are several related podcasts. I mean, people have gone very deep. Like
Okay.
I somebody I know, apparently there's a podcast that they have determined the type of music that will most easily put you to sleep depending on your working genius. And so there's a podcast that will and they'll play the music. You're
Okay.
supposed to relax based on all those things. It's supposed to relax you in a way that apparently other music wouldn't. So I'm not there.
Okay.
But there's a lot of there's a broad variety of information available. And I actually learned about this back when we were heavily doing the gyms. A bunch of gym operators we would get together regionally, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, and just kind of help each other out, talk, that sort of thing. I mean, like a little GWA type thing, but with gyms. And somebody introduced us to that. And so as a group, we all did it within our teams. And I'm not a huge fan of personality tests. My wife has done a few over the years. I mean, there's DISC and there's Enneagram. Those are two of the bigger personality tests, not specific to work, but that most people know. And I don't know. Like, I feel like I could take it 3 different days and get 3 different results
Yeah.
probably. And it depends on the mood I'm in. And so I've never been a big believer in those. But when we did Working Genius, I was shocked by how seen I felt with the results. Like, for the first time I looked at the results, I was like, oh wow, that is me. And not only is that it's one thing to know things about yourself, but it actually gave me tangible tools for now that you know this, here's how you can go into your profession, your business, your career, and operate in your strengths and be more effective, and not just do things that you're already better at, but do things that you enjoy doing. Because there is a difference in being good at something and enjoying doing something. And what we tend to do as leaders, and those of us, managers, people who are assigning responsibilities, we tend to focus on, well, somebody's good at this, so I'm going to have them do this, without necessarily even knowing whether or not it's something they really want to do, because if they don't voice it, and they may not even realize, they may have spent their whole life doing something that they were good at because they were good at it. And everybody said, oh, hey, you should do this, without even really thinking about how much joy, if any, it brought them. And maybe it's a 5, and they've been, they spent their career doing something that only brought them like a 5 of joy, but they thought that was a 10 because they never tried this other thing they're also good at, but they actually like better. And so it's really interesting how it can just help you view your team and the individuals on your team in a way that is better for your organization, but also better for them. And I can talk through kind of what that looks like, or if you want, I can just kind of dive into just the basics. And so if you're going to compare it to I wanted to give the comparison between DISC and Enneagram, just because those are the ones I frequently hear about. And so with Enneagram, the question you're trying to answer is, why do I behave this way? With DISC, you're trying to answer, how do I interact?
Because I'm a crazy person. I'm a 3. That's my answer. I've never done the DISC, I don't think.
Okay. DISC is one that I had done before too. And that one's, how do I interact with others? But then Working Genius, though, is, where should I spend my time? Where should I spend my time? And that is a very important question when you're talking about, as either a business owner or a leader in a business, or even just, an employee. You only have so many hours in the day, and you want to be as effective as you can be. Where should I be operating? And Working Genius kind of lays it out almost like a conveyor belt of from an idea to a completed product. And so everybody has 2 strengths, and these are not just things they're good at. They're things they're good at, and they're things they enjoy. So that's green. Most of them, incorporate some sort of color code. So green is, I'm good at this and I enjoy doing this. There's 2 things there. Yellow is, I'm either good at it or I enjoy doing it, but not the other. I might be good at it and don't enjoy it. I might really enjoy this. I'm just not super good at it. And so that's yellow. You can do it. Like you can operate in that sphere, but it's not ideal. And then red is you're not good at it and you don't enjoy it. Stay away. Do not assign that to this person. And so those categories are wonder and invention. So those are the first. If you look at like the evolution of an idea, somebody is wondering, how do we do this? And then the invention is, okay, or what can we do? And then how do we do it as invention? And then there's discernment. You need somebody who says, okay, is this worth doing? Is this a good idea or not? And then there's galvanizing. If you've had an idea, you've figured out how to do it, you've decided it's a good idea, you need somebody who's going to get everybody else behind it. And that's the galvanizing. And then there's enablement and tenacity. So enablement is, hey, I'm supporting this idea. I'm helping everybody march forward. And then tenacity is, I'm actually going to finish the thing. We're not just going to leave it at 80%. We're going to get it all the way across the finish line.
How many listeners have trouble with tenacity? They love the the wonder and like innovation. Yeah. And then maybe the galvanizing, like getting the team behind it. And then it just, right. You need somebody to come behind with the Asana project plan and check off all the items. Yeah.
Yeah. And tenacity, we found in our organizations, is the least represented strength. We actually have one
on your teams. Interesting. Okay.
Between everybody on our team currently, between everyone, we have one person who has tenacity as a strength.
Uh-oh.
Out of like 16 people. So, and you can tell the person with tenacity when you start assigning things, because that person is the one who calls you 53 times to ask you if you sent the email you were supposed to send yet. And it's like, well, no, of course I haven't sent it yet because I don't have tenacity, but you need that person. And so for me and Carissa, it was really eye-opening because we, as husband and wife, you've got your whole, you've got that relationship, but then you have your work relationship if you own businesses together. And so if being husband and wife wasn't, potential enough for conflict, adding in running businesses and that
its own special opportunity.
Yes.
Yep.
And so we would run into pretty big conflict over, and this scenario would repeat itself constantly. She would bring me an idea, say, hey, I had this idea. I think this is amazing. We should do this. And I would say, here's like 14 reasons why that's not going to work. And then she would get mad because she would feel like I wasn't validating her.
Totally. You're dismissing her ideas. I had that conversation with my spouse earlier today.
So she perceives me as dismissive and I perceive her as kind of flighty because it was like, we can't do 100 different things. Yeah. Like, why can't you focus? And so it wasn't until we did Working Genius that we were able to assign, like to label those things. And incidentally, her two strengths are wonder and innovation and her invention. And mine are galvanization and discernment. So we're the first 4 stops on the conveyor belt. So she's coming up with the ideas and try to figure out how, what's possible and how do we do it. And then I'm pretty quick to, I can make a gut call on a lot of things fairly quickly. And so that's the discernment where I'm like, yes or no. And then if I believe in something though, I am just naturally going to bring everybody with me. Like I can't not do that. I can tell you the best donuts in DC and I bet you they've had, 1,000 clients from me pushing them on people. I love, like, my Google reviews is crazy because I didn't even try this. I've had like 500,000 views now on my Google reviews of restaurants. Like I've reached like 500,000.
Yeah.
And so, because like when I love, and there's some good and bad in there. My team was actually laughing at my bad reviews the other day, but this one, it's bad. But there's some really good ones. There's lots of good ones. And I just enjoy, if I find something I like, I want other people to experience it. Just natural for me. But we also found, not only did we have that weird interaction with the ideas versus the discernment, she wouldn't carry an idea forward. She does not have galvanization. She does not want to lead the charge on anything. And so, but I would get frustrated with her. It's like, why don't you go do this? Well, I'm not going to do that. I want you to do it. And then I would be frustrated with her because I'm like, I'm still working on the last 3 things you came up with, like trying to figure out, what we do with that. And so it was a lot of that, but then also neither of us has tenacity. So, you look around our house at projects and we're great at getting them started. We'll do all the prep work, we'll buy the stuff. And then, I have picture hanging material and pictures on the ground that I haven't gotten to yet. I got several steps in, but then I abandon and pivot to something else. And she and I both have that. And so it's really interesting to see how it plays out in areas of your life with just how you work, how you operate.
So it sounds like, did you have your whole team take the assessment? Okay. And then
We
got
did.
this whole, there's no tenacity. Yeah. So how do you think about that? And are you looking like for your next hire, like to fill a hole or how are
Yes.
you thinking? Okay.
It's pretty foundational now to our hiring and our organizational structure. So everybody on the team takes the test. The program itself does a good job. It'll give you like a schematic to show, because ideally every organization, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're building airplanes or running a co-working space, or running a gym, there's an ideas to completion process for all of those things. And every team needs somebody to own each of those steps. But the person owning that step in an ideal world enjoys it and is good at it.
Yeah.
And so the schematic will show you kind of where you're deficient, because if you don't have representation in a certain area, that is going to lag. You're going to find that you start to bog down wherever that is. And so we have our whole team do it. We do have like I said, tenacity is very underrepresented and wonder is also underrepresented. So Carissa's one of only 2 people that has wonder as a strength. And so, which is interesting because, with the kids, she's not as involved as she would like to be. And we've tried to plug her in at various times, in various places, but it wasn't until we did Working Genius that we realized, okay, she only has a finite amount of time. We need to inject her into meetings where we're trying to brainstorm, because she's the only one in the room who actually enjoys doing that. For everybody else, it's not, it's a drag. It's a downer.
Yeah.
And so we've started that. So strategically, we've been plugging her into places where her wonder and invention can shine. But also, typically, we've had the last few people we've hired, we've had them take the test before we even hired them as like a final, we really like you, but let's see how you fit, especially for like our downtown Nashville location. It's not close. We have to send somebody there if we need coverage. And so we really needed we needed all those working geniuses to be represented on site. That was an important thing for us. And you were talking about hiring with going by your gut or intuition. That is how I used to do it. And I found that I would get tripped up when somebody was really good at interviewing.
Yeah.
But they weren't good at delivering.
100%. Right. Well, I'm just, and I, totally. And also you get into the pitfall of like, well, you tend to like people who are like you. Like, I love a galvanizer, but then you have no, tenacity, and a lot of shit needs to get done at a co-working space, right? In the business overall. So, so what is sort of you don't need a lot of wonder at a location. What are the categories that, I don't know, they may not be called categories, but yeah. So in Nashville, like, you probably want a galvanizer. I remember I told Gio, I had heard of this tool. Michelle Slater, who's a longtime manager at Work Lodge in Houston, had brought it up on one of our community manager university calls. And the thing that I remember is her talking about, you need a galvanizer on the team, because I think she might have been the tenacity person. Like, I'm going to check off, it's getting done. Right.
Yep.
But she's like, you need that person. Like, there's a happy hour, or, you want to meet a new member. Like, you need somebody who's like, I'll go get everybody together. Like, I'll make this happen. And that was so clear to me. Like, yes, you need that person on the team. And you can't assume that everybody applying for a community manager role, like, naturally has that. They don't.
No, they don't. And actually, I've been now pairing it with AI to help me drill down even more. And so when we were hiring in Nashville, we had a few people that we interviewed take the Working Genius quiz, and I plugged their results into ChatGPT, and I said, tell me how this person would do as a community manager in a co-working space.
Ooh.
And it was very interesting how it keyed in on certain things, and it was really helpful. And I use ChatGPT to create leadership profiles for each of my leaders based on their Working Genius. to say, here's how this person is best utilized. Because Working Genius tells you how to utilize them in the conveyor belt. But I want to know, how do I use them in my organization? What are their, especially knowing who everybody else is in the organization.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT is just processing all this and saying, well, enablement is widely represented in your organization. So most of our people have enablement as either a strength or a.
Wait, what is enablement again?
Enablement is it's right before tenacity. It's
Okay.
I'm going to support this project. I'm going to help fill in the gaps and
Yep.
I'm just kind of there making sure everybody has what they need. Just generally helpful person. And so most people on our team have that as a strength or a competency, and that's what it calls the yellow, the in between. It's a competency. You can do it. It may not be your favorite thing, but you can do it. And so it was kind of giving me, it was helping me figure out, okay, what do each of my people have that is unique to our organization? So I need, if I need this, I'm going to this person. And it was able to kind of give me that analysis. So I knew, okay, I need this person on the team. Like there was only one person on our entire team that when I did that, it was like, they kind of had a blend of everybody. Like they were like, they were just kind of like a mix of everyone. There was nothing that only they could do, but a lot of people on the team, just due to their working genius, it's like, you need this person for this, and nobody else on your team does this like they do. And it just helped me just evaluate where everybody is on the team. It actually, one of my people, I was thinking about moving them to another position, and I got its feedback on, is this the right move for them based on their working genius? And ChatGPT is telling me, well, you're going to want to think about this and this, and as long as, and like, it's just a very strategic way, other than just saying, well, I like this person, or I think they're good at this, or I've seen them do this well. Because ultimately, I want my people to own what they're doing. I don't want this to just be a job. I want them to feel some sort of ownership, and they're not going to do that if they don't enjoy what they're doing. It is just going to be a job. It's going to be a paycheck. I want it to be something they like to do and look forward to doing. And that's what I like about Working Genius, because it doesn't just say, what are you good at? It's what do you enjoy? What is life-giving for you is kind of the phraseology it uses. And that is important for me.
Can you give an example of the time that this actually helped you rule someone out from a position that you were not necessarily from a hiring position, but after you did this, you must have had these aha moments of, oh my gosh, I've been trying to get someone to do something that they have no desire to do, ability to do, don't enjoy. Because I think you've had some of those aha moments with your team in various ways, but did you use this in order to do that?
Yes. Well, and I'll say we had one of our team members who we just hit kind of a place where they were frustrated. I was frustrated. It just wasn't really vibing, and we were growing super fast. And so everybody was kind of just doing what they could, but they had kind of slotted into a position where, they were just struggling, and we were trying to figure out how to get through it. And I was not utilizing Working Genius enough then, but I have gone back and analyzed all that through Working Genius, because I want to prove that I can actually use this tool to solve problems. So I'm like, all right, what if I would have known what can it tell me about this person in this situation that would have helped me, because we had a few months of like just tentative, like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Either they might quit, I might have to let him go. Like I didn't know. And so I'm like, could I have avoided that if I would have applied Working Genius principles? And man, when I had to analyze it, I mean, it was like crystal clear. Like I could have solved that problem so fast, but it was like, basically it was like, I was trying to put this person in a position to basically drive things forward. And it was like, that's the last thing this person wants to do. They don't want to drive anything. They don't want to be the one having to make decisions. But like, that was all they were doing in that season, was they were making decisions. They were pushing things. It's like, this person wants to help people. Like they can help anybody do anything. But if they are the person, they're going to take it all in. They're going to try to do it all themselves. They're not good at delegating, and they're going to crash and burn. And that's what was happening with them at the time. They were starting to implode because they were taking everything on themselves and having to do something they were not predisposed to do naturally, which is drive something, be the driving force behind something. And it also helped identify something I did not appreciate in them. I did not know they had this ability. I didn't recognize it. And then after going through the analysis, I'm like, oh, and then I could look back and connect some dots, but I hadn't picked up on it. And so I just felt like I underutilized them for a while. And that, when we pay really good money for talented people, but then you're not getting the results you feel like you should. It's like, okay, what did I do wrong? What are they doing wrong? And sometimes it can be really ambiguous. And I feel like this has helped provide a lot of clarity for those things for us.
Now, have you ever done this with your kids?
No, we've talked about it because with school, I think it'd be interesting because I think that'd be the closest application for our kids. Like, how do you operate in school? And we have not. We've talked about doing it.
Although they also, well, I mean, it might be fine. I know the Enneagram, there's like a little bit of warning, like they don't want you to do it on until they're like kids that are too young. I feel like
Yeah.
13 might have been the age. Like you don't want to sort of pigeon them like
Right.
their self-perception or, sort of box them in. This is like one of those topics I could talk about all day. I think this is so interesting. I'm curious, well, like maybe Nashville's a good example or one of your new locations. Like, what does your team structure look like? One of the challenges with the location team is that you have to keep it pretty lean, right? Like we'd all love to hire 10 people to, fit all the roles on the conveyor belt, but we can't. And, I'll use this term more generically, but like the community manager, one of the challenges is we're always talking about like, well, we expect them to be like a unicorn. We want them to be extroverted, but really great at operate, like to have the tenacity, but also be, want to talk to people about like so many like strengths, which cannot exist in one person. Do you guys have a way of thinking about how you prioritize and then sort of balance like what that makeup is on your team or anything you're willing to share about how you think about that?
Yeah, I think enablement is really important. And it's something that I'm just looking at our leadership team. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the 6 people on our leadership team have enablement. This is like our community managers and me and Carissa. And so I think enablement puts you could be an all-star service hospitality person with enablement because you are constantly looking for ways to help make people's lives easier, to help them solve problems. And so when you have members that have, whether it's a printer issue or they're trying to figure out how to set up a conference room or whatever it might be, having that instinct where I want to help you figure this out is hugely beneficial. The things I feel like I can punt on, just because we have them represented either with me and Carissa or with kind of like our executive people, is like wonder.
Yeah.
It's not bad to have, I wouldn't reject somebody because they had wonder, but I don't need it represented at like each individual location, because as a group, if we have wonder somewhere, we'll figure out, if a community manager in one location doesn't have wonder and we have to figure out how to improve something there, somebody in the executive team is interacting with that location. Yep. Wonder will kick in. But I feel like not having enablement on the ground is, you're not going to be able to provide the level of service that we want to provide if your people don't have enablement. I think discernment is important to have. Because otherwise what I found, when people don't have discernment, when they don't like making decisions, they end up punting those decisions up. And so you don't have the ability to always take a break and say, oh, let me ask 5 different people what they think about this and then get back to you. You're constantly making decisions on the fly, and it has caused some wrinkles when we've had people who are just totally uncomfortable making decisions. No discernment. Nobody at the location can make a decision. And now, it wastes everybody's time. It causes us to pull in, several people. Like that can be a problem.
And I would guess that plays into time management too, right? Because your team constantly has to decide, like, what do I prioritize? What do I spend time on? Because, there's maybe more to do than you can in a day. And the discernment, I would guess, would cover that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if your community managers are doing sales or whoever you have doing sales need to have some level of galvanizing, you're going to convince everybody that comes through the door that this is the best co-working place that they've ever been in, and here's why, and you're comfortable doing that. So I think that's really important. I mean, tenacity is good. And like when I asked ChatGPT about, because one of the people we hired in Nashville has tenacity. So we do actually have a second person with tenacity now as of like a week ago. I said, well, how does this affect them as a community manager? How will this play out in a community manager? And I said, well, when they're doing sales, they're going to be very prompt on following up with people, and they're going to continue to follow up with them and get them in the space. And so they're going to be aggressively recruiting leads to come in and making sure they're nurtured. And that's how tenacity kind of comes out in that process. So
Yeah.
like, okay, so it's cool to see just the direct application for that.
That was one of the things that came up for me. And I think if you're missing it and you can't fill it in, then you might have to outsource it.
Mhm.
Like I hear a lot of operators talk like they can't get their team. Maybe their team is great at enablement or even galvanized, but like they're not doing the lead follow up. Well, you got to get it done. And if you can't force it into somebody who doesn't have the tenacity to do it, and it just sucks all the joy out of the job for them, then, put it on somebody else's plate, potentially. I mean, that's a leadership decision, but I love how it can force you to think through like who's doing what. And if something's not getting done, well, why is it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I read a book called Who, which is Chick-fil-A's like
Yep.
hiring manual. And,
Yep.
and my main takeaway from that, it's been several years, was that everybody thinks they need to hire an all-star, but like you really need to hire role players. You need, if you're putting together a basketball team, you need the center who can block. You need like everybody can't be the center. You need somebody who can dribble. You need somebody who can pass. But like in our minds, like, well, I need all 5 people to be Michael Jordan. It's like, well, you don't. And I think Working Genius kind of plays into that, because I think some business owners, like if we have our, kind of our local independent co-working places and it's one person, or like I was with our gyms when we had our first gym, it's like, I feel like I have to be good at everything to run this. But what I've learned is I'm not good at everything and I need to hire to my weaknesses, and Working Genius helps you maybe more accurately pinpoint, because I think we'd all like to believe maybe our weaknesses are something less than they are, but Working Genius kind of helps you frame it honestly and say, okay, let me take a good hard look at myself. What does Working Genius say I shouldn't be doing? Or what am I doing that I don't even realize is bogging me down? Like I'm good at it. And because I'm good at it, I feel like I should be doing it. And I didn't realize that it's just sucking the energy out of me. And that's probably the hardest thing to do, is to let go of something you're good at when it's just not life-giving for you.
Yeah. Ooh,
but I
good
think
at, but not life-giving. Yeah.
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 So.
I love this conversation. I think it's, to your point, it's so important it's important for big companies, but companies that are like your size, like it's the perfect time to be thinking about this, because you're really optimizing. And to your point, like you have to get the most out of the team. You can't really afford to have not, not the right composition, because then you're just suboptimal somewhere.
Yeah, and I wanted to say this too, because I've been able to use it also in conversations for growth for my team. It really helps frame the conversation away from there's something wrong with you. And I think that's
totally
what my wife felt like.
Yes.
When I was really downing her ideas, it's like, well, there's something wrong with me. And also there's something wrong with her. She definitely thought there was something wrong with me. And it's like, we learned that, okay, we're just geared differently in this way. And I think for our team too, when I've had to have some tough conversations in the last few months, I've relied on Working Genius to help me frame it in a way that's like, look, this isn't a deficiency in you. Here are the things that you're good at and give you strength. And these are just things that don't fall into that category. So don't beat yourself up. We have other people, or we are finding other people you don't have to fill that slot. I want you to be over here. And I've seen them, like I've seen like the light in their eyes and the smile in response when you're able to say, you're good at these things. You don't have to feel bad about not being good or not enjoying these things. There's no reason to feel bad about it, because what I like about this is nobody is green in all 6. You can only be green.
Right.
Like, like I'm just the best at everything. That doesn't exist in this. And so I feel like it has made those conversations more positive. And I've also looked up how to approach those conversations based on the person's Working Genius. Okay, I have to have a tough conversation about this thing that happened. If this person's Working Geniuses are, wonder and enablement, how can I say this in a way that they're going to receive it the right way? And literally ChatGPT is like, you're going to want to focus on these things and not these things. It's like, man, it's so easy.
I love this use of, I just have to interject. I think your use of ChatGPT is so interesting and useful. I run our local soccer league, and we had a complaint come in from a parent of a youth coach that we have. And it was about an email, and I read the email and I was like, I don't see any problem with the email. And one of my colleagues was like, well, put it in ChatGPT, explain the roles, and ask it how it would interpret it. And it did. And to your point, I was like, oh, I don't see it that way. But this is why they see it this. I mean, I was like mind blown.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was so smart. Yeah, really interesting. Gio, this is so fun. He's got to go pick up his kids. We might have to have a part 2.
I love to.
I love this stuff. Sorry, Gio. I totally took over. What's
I was
the
just going
working
back
genius style that takes over when Gio brought the guest on?
Well, I was going back and forth with Carissa, back to the working genius. It's so funny. And I've learned, I've got a friendship with Richie and Carissa. And so I've learned how I handle the relationship. And from that standpoint, I mean, like we were talking about touring later this month, and Richie and I spoke, and he gave me dates. And so I sent a text message to both of them because I was like, I just want to make sure that the dates Richie gave me, which by the way, they are not the right dates, Richie. So
oh, they're not?
No,
Okay.
We've been going back and forth coordinating the dates, but it's pretty because they've got multiple. It's funny. You go into their house and they have this huge like calendar, a digital calendar of all their stuff. And he's like, well, I'm looking at the personal calendar, and then there's the business calendar. And so there was,
He's swiping on the,
we could have
the
made the
big
dates
screen.
work that you gave me, but we're trying to pencil in. But it's so funny because, you know, sometimes we're like, okay, almost like happened today. So he's like, yeah, we got it. And then we had to schedule time for him to go pick up the kids. So, but I think that's the beauty of it, is having business partners and spouse that picks up the slack on some of the stuff that you're not great at. Right. And so,
Right.
you know,
For sure.
well, Richie, I appreciate your time. I know you got to run and get the kids. Excited to see you next week at the
Likewise.
conference.
Yeah,
It's,
me too.
Sure.
and really excited
For
to
sure.
hear you interview John. So that'll be awesome.
No, I can't wait.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate
Thanks for making the time to do this. This was great. We appreciate
it.
you.
Sure. All right. See you all.
Bye.